Hey, welcome to the Steven Sulley Study. I want to talk to you today about the reasons I believe that most people end up purchasing products. So in my experience, people will end up buying these products or services and things of that nature for two fairly universal reasons, and then behind them there is their hot button or their goal, and that could usually be one or two things. So what do I mean? So when someone's purchasing something, it's either, number one, they're doing it because of the fear of loss, which I'll get into in a minute. The second thing is the desire to gain. Now, in my experience, being in sales for some time and also going to see some very, very strong and very, very great sales companies, I helped train them and I've done a few talks at different sales companies. In my opinion, and this is just my opinion, the fear of loss is the main thing that people do, let's say use, when it comes down to parting with money or signing up to a service or a product. Currently, right now, I am a co-founder to a brand called Woodbury House. It is an art agency in distribution. We do some private sales, of course. We put on shows, collaborations around the world. Been in some major publications like Forbes, Huffington Post, Wall Street International, Evening Standard, I think this year, Mail Online, Vogue, just to name a few. We got an office over in Dubai because that's where the company's formed, but also we have a private studio over in Soho. With some of the artists that we work with, one in particular, a guy called Richard Hambleton, is deemed as a blue chip investment grade artist, and you only have to look at Christie's, Sotheby's, Phillips and see all the auctions. You know, they've blown out the water many of the estimates. Some of the pieces are going for hundreds of thousands of pounds now, and they're probably going to go over $1 million in the future. Anyway, my point is this: when people are purchasing Hambleton, yeah, you have the primary use for it, which is to enjoy, to look at, to analyse what he done to the canvas or whatever he painted on. And people normally display this in their home offices. They may have some kind of bonded or facility or a vault. But then there's another reason why people buy things like Richard Hambleton original artworks or even limited editions. Many say that the art market, generally speaking, has become an investment area for many of the very successful people out there, and also for the general investor now, because it's an area, providing that you're doing your own research and you're getting the right advice and guidance, you can protect your money as well as yielding quite healthy returns. So going back to my thing I said at the start, fear of loss or the desire to gain. When people are looking at something like a Richard Hambleton artwork, as a salesperson, what you need to do is get all your facts in place. And I typically never pitch the product too much. I pitch myself, the service, my brand, and then also use market material that is coming out daily. So in the Evening Standard, Sky News, Bloomberg, some of these major platforms, because they're giving out factual information all the time. So what I will do is, if I'm speaking to, let's say, an investor and they're qualified for our service or our products, I will look at the market and find a headline which is recent and explain to them what it means to them. Now, I remember a few years ago, I remember seeing a headline, I think it was in the Daily Mail, saying that the FSA, or it might have been the FCA at the time, fined Barclays Bank, the High Street Bank, huge amount of money, something like 80 million, for misguidance to some of their account holders and also investors. Now, I highlighted this to a few potential investors. I appealed to their logic. I also appealed to their emotion. And I also said that many other banks could potentially be doing something like this. They're going to be looked at by the regulators. They're going to be fined. And what it means to your money is, if it's caught up in some kind of confusion or in these investigations that the regulators are putting on the banks now, many would say that your money could be under some kind of risk. And, you know, there's other bullets or articles that I found to back up what I'm saying, which I send over to my clients. And so the fear of loss is, if they keep it inside the banks, like Lehman Brothers, like Bear Stearns, like Bradford and Bingley, like Northern Rock, just to name a few, when these banks collapse, it means that your money can be caught up in the chaos. So people now are taking their money out and they're putting it into areas which are known as safe havens or somewhere to protect their money. So that is one of the reasons why someone will put their money into a Richard Hambleton piece of art, to protect their money. So that's the fear of loss. The desire to gain is, for example, if you're looking at Richard Hambleton, he was one of the founders to pioneer the street art movement. So there was another artist he used to work alongside, a friend of his, a guy called Jean-Michel Basquiat. And if you're looking at his auction results, some of them are going for tens of millions of dollars. And recently, within the last few years, one Jean-Michel Basquiat original, this went for $110.5 million. $110.5 million. This is one single painting. Now, what that means to anyone purchasing Richard Hambleton, even though there is no guarantees, what it does suggest, because they used to work together and they were both seen as creators of the street art movement, that's why Banksy got his inspiration. Many say that now Richard Hambleton has sadly passed away, his pieces could go in the same direction. So what it means to an investor, their desire to gain is, if they put their money into this particular opportunity over 5, 10, 15, 20 years, the long-term game, that same piece of art could be worth tens, hundreds, it could even be worth millions of pounds, because the market has appreciated, and so many more collectors, investors and serious art buyers who love Hambleton's work are looking to pay big premiums for the works. And of course, people like Christie, Sotheby's, Phillips, some of the big auction houses will relish the opportunity, putting some of these artworks into their auctions. Now, the reason why I've shared this with you is because many times when I'm listening to salespeople, many times when I'm kind of analysing why things are maybe not clicking for them, part of my diagnosing what's happening is I will listen to how they do a presentation, and it amazes me that so many people talk way too much about the product. The problem with that is you overcomplicate things. If the client feels like this is a very complex, very intricate product or service, it means they're probably going to think about it, and we know 99% of the time someone's going to think about it, they're probably not end up going to do it. So what you need to do is only hit home on a couple of the key points, but then you need to appeal to their fear of loss or their desire to gain, and also uncover their hot button. The reason why they want to protect themselves or yield better returns is because they may have a certain hot button goal, desire, a vision of something which could be in the medium or long term future. So that could be moving abroad, that could be some kind of new home, that could be putting children through university, it could be anything. So you need to uncover that, and these are the main reasons why people end up purchasing products or services. Again, you can use this in any form of sales, estate agency. You could also use it in recruitment, financial investment sales. It doesn't really matter. These principles are quite universal when it comes down to sales in all kinds of ways. So the fear of loss, make sure you find out how you can use some market material and how to make it relevant to that client and also to your service or product, and also the desire to gain. Why would someone purchase that product or service or even system? How can they gain from it? So you need to easily, simply articulate that and break that down. Thank you for listening, guys. If you want to follow me on Instagram, it's sully.steven. I've been interviewing a few people recently. I'm looking forward to releasing some of these episodes. Very exciting stuff. And remember, be happy, never content.